Hare Krishna, welcome to the Bhagavad Gita class bi-weekly. Today we will do chapter 7, verse number 5, but we will begin with chanting. Welcome to the Bhagavad Gita class. We will begin with chanting Jaya Radha Madhava, and then we will do chapter 7, verse number 5. As always, please feel free to comment or to ask any questions by typing in on the sidebar. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupada Paramahansa Paribrajakachaja Stutara Sata Sri Srimadesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Mathura Dham Ki Jai Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Jamuna Maya Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse number 5. Apareyamitastu anyam prakritim vidime param jiva bhutam mahabao yayedam dharyate jagat. Apareyam itastu anyam prakritim vidime param jiva bhutam mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagat. Apareyam itastu anyam prakritim vidime param Jiva Bhutam Mahabaho Yayedam Dharyate Jagat. Apara, inferior. Iyam, this. itaha, besides this, tu, but, anyam, another, prakritim, energy, vidi, just try to understand, me, my, param, superior, jiva bhutam, the living entities, mahabaho, almighty armed one, yaya bahum, idam, this, dharyate, being utilized or exposed or exploited, jagat, the material world. Translation. Besides this inferior nature of mighty armed Arjuna, there is a superior energy of mind, which are all the living entities who are struggling with material nature and are sustaining the universe. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Here it is clearly mentioned that living entities belong to the superior nature or energy of the Supreme Lord. The inferior energy or matter manifested in different elements, namely earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Both forms of material nature, namely gross, earth, etc., and subtle, mind, etc., are produced or products of the inferior energy. The living entities who are exploiting this inferior energy for different purposes are the superior energy of the Supreme Lord. And it is due to this energy that the entire material world functions. The cosmic manifestation has no power to act unless it is moved by the superior energy, the living entity. Energies are always controlled by the energetic, and therefore living entities are always controlled by the Lord. They have no independent existence. They are never equally powerful as unintelligent men think. The distinction between the living entities and the Lord is described in Srimad Bhagavatam as follows, 10.8.7.30. Aparimita druvas tanubrito yadi sarvagatas tarimna sasyateti niyamo dhruvanitaratah ajani chayan mayanam tadavimucha niyantrir bhavit sama manujanatam yadatmanam matadushtataya. O Supreme Eternal, if the embodied living entities were eternal and all-pervading like you, then they would not be under your control. But if the living entities are accepted as minute energies of your Lordship, then they are at once subject to your supreme control. Therefore, real liberation entails surrendering by the living entities to your control, and that surrender will make them happy. In that constitutional position only can they be controllers. Therefore, men with limited knowledge who advocate a monastic theory that God and the living entities are equal in all respects are actually misleading themselves and others. The Supreme Lord Krishna is the only controller, and the living entities are controlled by him. These living entities are his superior energy, because the quality of their existence is one and the same with the Supreme, but they are never equal to the Lord in quantity or power. While exploiting the gross and subtle inferior energy, matter, the superior energy, the living entity, forgets his real spiritual mind and intelligence. This forgetfulness is due to the influence of matter upon the living entity. But when a living entity becomes free from the influence of the illusory material energy, he attains a stage called mukti, or liberation. The false ego, under the influence of material illusion, thinks, I am matter, and material acquisitions are mine. His actual position is realized when he is liberated from all material ideas, including the conception of his becoming one in all respects with God. Therefore, one may conclude that the Gita confirms the living entity to be only one of the multiple energies of Krishna. And when this energy is freed from material contamination, it becomes fully Krishna conscious or liberated. Apareyamitastu anyam prakritim vidime param jiva bhutam mahabaho yayidam dharyate jagat. So this verse goes hand in glove with the verse before, where Krishna explains the inferior energy, bhumirapo nalo vayu kam mano buddhi revasha ahankara mitiyam me binna prakriti. Krishna says these are my external energy. However, he says, two, apareyam, higher than this or beyond this, there is another energy, prakritim vidime param, and that is the superior energy. We, the living entities, are also part of the superior energy of Krishna. And we exploit the material energy, and because of the exploitation, the material world is moving. The difference between the spiritual energy and the material energy is that the material energy is always changing. It is not permanent. Whereas the spiritual energy, it is permanent, it is ashashvatam, it is unchangeable. Whereas the material world, it is called jagat. Jagat means to move. Jao, jagat, in Sanskrit means to move. That means that the universe, the jagat, it is called jagat because it is always in motion. And how is it in motion? It is in motion because of the material desires of the living entities who want to imitate the controlling power of Krishna. Now, Krishna has created the living entities in his image. Actually, the living entities are not created. They are eternal. There is not a time, natu evaham jatu nasham. There is no time when we were born. Nachayvana bhavisha maha sarve vayam athaparam. Nor will there be a time when we will be annihilated. In other words, everything within the jagat, within the material world, is moving through 5 processes: birth, growth, maintenance, dissolution, and death. Everything in the material world, except the living entity. So it is an illusion to think that when the body dies, we also die. But this misconception of that I am this body, aham mama iti, I am this body, it is so deep and so powerfully ingrained into us that practically there is no understanding of our spiritual nature. If you look around yourself in the material world in which we live in our present society, there is no teachings about spiritual life. There is no understanding of the nature of the soul. There is no understanding of the nature of reincarnation. Even the mainland religions, only in Hinduism and Buddhism is there an understanding of reincarnation. There used to be an understanding also in the teachings of Christianity. But that understanding was removed from the teachings in the year 500 BC. 500 years after the death of Christ. The Catholic Christian Church was mainly located out of Constantinople, present-day Istanbul, in Turkey. At that time, the emperor was Constantine, and he was the protector of the faith. He was like the Pope as well as the king. And he called a meeting of all the bishops in Christianity at a place called Nicaea in Turkey. And the purpose of the meeting was to establish a uniform understanding of the teachings of the Bible. In other words, they took the Old Testament and the New Testament, which was written by 4 different people and explained differently and kept differently in different parts of the Middle East. This mismatch was amalgamated and it was formed into the New Testament. At that time, all the teachings regarding reincarnation were elided, were deleted from this new version of the New Testament. And there were many protests. In fact, many bishops were killed because they protested against this. So the understanding that we are spirit, soul, and that we travel through different bodies, it is not useful for political purposes. And the politics of Christianity and other religions are very, very powerful and very deeply embedded in human society. Why is that? That is because religion is such a powerful sentiment, and it is in the heart of everyone. And it is easily exploitable, and it is easily manipulated. Therefore, on the plea that we need religion to satisfy our material needs, different religions have exercised control over their followers ever since the beginning of our present history, thousands of years. But since 200 years ago, 150 years ago, when the Industrial Revolution became more and more powerful in the West, and society found ways of satisfying their senses without the need to pray to God, when they saw that simply by manipulating material elements, they were able to obtain the needs to satisfy the senses, then religion lost its power over people, and that's the situation we have today. Nonetheless, even though we are able to maintain our material needs without reference or without thanks or without indulgence from God, nevertheless, we cannot create a permanent situation in the material world. It is not possible, no matter how much we try. Krishna, he describes the nature of the material world. We are indeed very fortunate that in India, there was no organized religion. There was no hierarchy, no structure. The acharyas, they handed down the knowledge to their disciples, and there were many, many, many guru paramparas, or guru systems of disciple and master, master and disciple, keeping this knowledge. And because of this system of hearing from the spiritual master and then transmitting this knowledge is still available today in unadulterated form. And especially Srila Prabhupada, he brought this knowledge from India to the West, and it is encapsulated in the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is the essence of knowledge. And in this book, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, God himself, speaks about himself, speaks about the nature of the soul. In fact, he begins the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita by explaining the difference between the body and the soul. This is crucial. This is crucial knowledge which is not being given to us. It's not being given to our children. It is not extant in society. And we must demand that this knowledge is given to us, because it is our right, and it is the only way that we can make this material world from dukkhalayam, and we can become sukhalayam, or happy, and become able to break the circle of birth and death. Now, this knowledge, or this understanding of this knowledge, or the questions regarding this knowledge, is not something new. Lord Chaitanya, when he appeared 500 years ago, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was an incarnation of Krishna, who came to give us an easy, acceptable way to practice Dharma, to practice our service attitude towards God. And it gave us an easy way to engage ourselves with God by chanting the holy name. And one of his main disciples, although Sanatana Goswami, although born in a Brahmana family, he was still incapable of understanding what is spiritual life. So he approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he inquired from him. He said, Apanara hitaya kichu na jani. Apnar, mine, hitaya, what is good for me. Hita ahita, what is good and what is bad. Kichu na jani, I do not know. So the very first step of understanding our spiritual nature is to realize that by our own self, we are not able to understand what is good and what is bad for us. Gramya vyavahare pandit tai satya mani. But ke ami keno amane jare tapatroy. Hiya nai jani kemone hita hoy. But the fact of the matter is, Even though the people in general consider me a pandit and call me pandit or learned person, I am not a pandit because I do not know who I am. Ke ami. And not only I don't know who I am, Keno amare jare tapatrai. Why are the triple miseries of the material world affecting me? Why are other people causing disturbance in my life? In fact, Sanatana Goswami, when he expressed his desire to concentrate 100% on his spiritual development, he was put into prison by his master, the king of Bengal, Hussain Shah. And the same mentality is present today. If you express a desire to 100% understand your spiritual nature, you will run into many, many difficulties. Not only outside, but even within your own family. So, Sanatan's point was that I may be called a pandit, and he was a pandit in many ways because he spoke Sanskrit, he spoke Persian, he spoke Arabic, he was very well learned, he was the prime minister of the king, he was not a common person. And as I said, born in a Brahminical family with all the privileges and all the knowledge given to that status. So a very highly sophisticated, very highly situated person in human society, respected by everyone. But he said, even though I have so much respect, even though people call me pandit, I am not a pandit because I don't know who I am. Ke ami. Shada Shadana Tattva Puchite Naijani. I don't even know what is Shadya Shadan, what is good for me. I don't even know how to ask. Kripa Kori Shad Tattva Kawate Apne. So he's speaking to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, even though I don't know how to ask, I'm asking you to explain to me the full understanding of what is truth. Truth is the cornerstone upon which we can become liberated from this material world. And on his questioning to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he concluded by saying, Nicha jati nicha sangi patita hadam kubishaya kupapuri gonayo janam. Nicha jati, I am born in a low family. Nicha sangi, my association is also low. Patita hadam, I am the most fallen. Kripa Kori, please give me your mercy. Sab tattva kata apni. Personally instruct me directly. So we have the duty, we have the moral duty to approach a spiritual master, to approach someone to teach us this knowledge of our nature. Because we are spirit, we have the right to be taught about spiritual subject matters. It is not sufficient to get material education. Material education will not liberate us from material life. We may become perfect in material education. The result will be we'll take a better birth. But as long as we take birth into the material world, from the topmost planet, Abrahma, Bhuvana Loka, to the lowest planet, Punar Avartino, Arjuna. Krishna advises, in every one of these planets, up or down, you come back again and again. So what is the solution? The solution is given by Krishna in the Gita. Mamupetya, achieve me. 2, if you achieve me, Madhya Kaunteya, Madhya Arjuna, Punar Jamana Vidyate. You don't see another birth in the material world. Now, the last time I gave class here on Wednesday evening, there was a question from my godbrother, Atma Vidya Prabhu, and his question was that there are many aspects of transcendental knowledge. Obviously, our relationship with God is not as simple as we may think. Simply, the basic relationship with God is that He is the master and we are the servant. That is very easy to understand. He is the Father of everyone. But there are other aspects of our relationship with God involving devotion, involving love, involving amorous exchanges, friendly exchanges, exchanges as parent towards God. For example, in Vaishnava Siddhanta, there is the understanding or the concept of God becoming the child of his devotee, which is unknown in any other spiritual path, that God will agree to become your child. Why does he do that? He agrees to become your child so that you can serve him. The relationship between son and father is usually the son asks the father for benefits. The father supplies and the son enjoys. But here, that understanding is turned upside down, where the father becomes the devotee and the son becomes Krishna. And Krishna accepts loving service, and that is called Vatsalya Ras. There is great joy from a parent to serve his child. You ask any mother or any father, they serve their children out of love. They don't get any of the children don't pay their parents for their service. On the contrary, they keep demanding, and the parents keep giving because they love doing it. So this love, this affection, when it is channeled to Krishna, is intensified 1,000,000 times. It is almost unexplainable. It is impossible to explain. And beyond that and above that is the exchange of amorous relationship with Krishna, where Krishna becomes your husband or Krishna becomes your lover. And these are very, very confidential topics because people tend to imitate God. So the question was, can we teach the public in general these esoteric teachings? They are found in the books that Prabhupada has translated and published, like the Chaitanya Charitamrita. They are found in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which Prabhupada translated and published. And even in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna warns Arjuna, or he advises Arjuna. He says, Idam te natapakshaya na bhaktaya kadachana na chushushrave vachyam na chamamyo abhishuyati. That one who is not atapakshaya, one who is not austere, one who doesn't perform austerities. What is the purpose of austerity? What does Krishna say that one who doesn't perform austerities is not actually to be taught this transcendental science? Because unless you practice austerities, you cannot understand your spiritual nature. Austerities mean to control the senses. Without sense control, there is no spiritual knowledge. So, one who is not austere, naha bhaktaya, one who is not a devotee, Krishna says, both of these people should not hear this transcendental science. So what to speak of Bhagavatam, which explains the nature of Krishna's amorous pastimes? What to speak of Chaitanya Charitamrita? In fact, I was remembering that our Param Guru, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was a tremendous scholar and who preached far and wide the message of Krishna consciousness, he forbade his disciples from reading certain parts of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, what is the dynamic here? If we look around the world, when Prabhupada came to America, there was nobody who was not austere. There was nobody, there were no devotees of Krishna, abhaktaya. Bhaktas, there were none. And austere, very, very rare to be found. But Prabhupada came and he gave us this confidential knowledge. So the dynamic is that the devotee knows that this knowledge is transcendental and it is very confidential and very delicate. The devotee doesn't speak about the intimate relationship between himself and God. But he also knows that Krishna has created the material universe to correct the weird spiritual souls, his parts and parcels, his beloved parts and parcels who are struggling in the material world. Yayidam dharyate jagat. They're maintaining the material world by their struggle, just like the criminals are maintaining the prison system by their criminality. But the government doesn't want the people to be criminal, nor does it want to spend money in maintaining them in prison houses. It wants to reform their character. So internally Krishna wants us to become reformed, to become frustrated and disgusted with the material world to such a point that we say, enough already. Why am I being frustrated at every moment in this material world? Why I cannot be happy? Why I cannot live forever? Why? Why? And these questions lead us on the spiritual path. So because the devotees know that Krishna wants to reform the living entities living in the material world, the devotees take chances and they preach this confidential knowledge, even though sometimes they get negative reaction. So the dynamic is very simple to understand. That Krishna, he may not give his mercy to people who are not devoted, who are not austere. But because his devotee wants to give the mercy, then because of the devotee's desire to be merciful, Krishna is merciful. In other words, I don't deserve any mercy from Krishna. I'm the most fallen, the most sinful person. Before I met Prabhupada, I didn't even know how to live as a gentleman. But because of Prabhupada's mercy, I got the mercy of Krishna. Not because I deserved it. I deserved nothing. It was the last thing in my head. But it was because of Prabhupada's desire. So sometimes, because of this understanding of this dynamic of Krishna wanting the living entities to be liberated, then devotees speak on confidential subject matters. But it requires experience, and it requires very, very strong, a very strong commitment not to speak more than your previous teachers have spoken. Not to go beyond certain boundaries. And if one becomes a pure devotee of his spiritual master, then he will not go beyond the boundary. If you actually read Prabhupada's books, if you listen to Prabhupada's lectures, then you cannot speak beyond the boundaries he has set up. So, now let's see, we have many people who have joined us here. I see on the left side. So we'll go down. We see there is Anna Maria from, I think, Colombia. Sakshi Daulatani from Jaipur. Jai Madhava Das, Haribol Prabhu. Please accept my respects and obeisances from Moscow. Atmavidya Das, Filippo from Italy, probably. Dhirin Rati Manjari, our great devotee, lady devotee from Amsterdam. Ekta Atmaraman, Jai Madhava Das again, and then Atmavidya has a question. How can we gauge whether the difficulties and continuous setbacks that we are facing in a certain devotional project are meant to make us determined and more surrendered, or are a hint that we are simply over-endeavoring as outlined by Rupa Goswami in his Upadeshamrita? So, Lolium, or to be too much eager for material perfection, is a there are six things we have to be very careful with, which are actually destroying our bhakti. Atyahara is the first. Eating too much or collecting too much. Atyahara prayasas, over-endeavoring for material results. Atyahara prayasas cha prajalpa niyamagraha. Prajalpa means talking nonsense or talking about subject matters which have nothing to do with your spiritual enhancement. Talking illusion instead of talking truth. Niyamagraha, being too attached to the rules or not following the rules. Lodiyam cha, sadvik bhakti pranashati. These six activities kill our natural love and devotion to Krishna. So one of them is prayashas. So how do we know? How do we know when we are doing something which is beyond our capacity? And that's actually not very difficult at all. You simply study Prabhupada's books, and you study, and if you actually study Prabhupada's books, not just pay lip service, if you actually study Prabhupada's books, if you actually listen to Prabhupada's lectures, then there'll be no doubt in your mind how to act and how to behave, because he has put it down in a language which is very simple and very easy to understand. One of the things that Prabhupada wanted very, very badly, and it didn't happen during his lifetime, was that he wanted Indians from India, intelligent Indians, to take up this transcendental science of Krishna consciousness. And actually, it is now happening. But one of my understanding and one of my prayers to these new devotees coming from India and living in the West and taking an interest in Krishna consciousness is, please do not turn what Prabhupada has given, this transcendental science, into a mundane religion. The tendency and the how do you say, the propensity to use religion for material benefit is very, very deep rooted within us. We come from millions and millions of births. We may not remember, but Krishna remembers. Bahuni me vyatitani jammani tavacharjuna. My dear Arjuna, you and I, Krishna says in the 4th chapter, have had many, many, many births. Tani aham veda sarvani. I remember them all. Na tvam veta parantapa. My dear Arjuna, powerful as you are, parantapa, we were able to destroy your enemies, you don't remember these births. So Krishna knows exactly what is going on, and our tendency to be involved in material life, it is not just suddenly happening in this birth. It is coming from many, many births. So the tendency to value what we see and can touch, my body, my wife, my husband, my children, my business, my land, my community, these are very deep rooted, and we are bombarded with this propaganda from the moment of birth. I went to good schools, both in Italy and in Africa and in England. I was taught by very good teachers, but nobody taught me the transcendental science of spiritual life. I was taught to enjoy material life. I was taught how to become expert at exploiting the material energy. Ya yedam daryate jagat. It is said right here in this verse that our purpose is to exploit the material energy. So the tendency to use everything material, it is also there in beginning devotees, Kanishta Adhikari. A Kanishta Adhikari is a beginning devotee. He thinks that God is only in the temple. He thinks that only one who is got tilak and kurta and chanting japa is a devotee. Everybody else isn't. He doesn't have the capacity to discriminate. So the tendency is to use religion for his main interest, which is outside the temple. Actually, in every religion, there is a temple or a mosque or a church. When I grew up, my grandparents, my parents always took me to church on Sunday. So actually, God is not just in the church. God is everywhere. The problem is we forget that He's everywhere. Therefore, at least once a week, we'll take bath, we'll put on a clean shirt, and we'll go to church. At least once a week, we recognize that, yes, I am here, and you are here, God, you're supplying my needs. Thank you very much, very happy. Monday, I'll go back to my usual business. This is Kanishta Adhikari. To come to the next platform of Madhyam Adhikari, to become to the next understanding, is that God is everywhere, and everyone is connected with Him. And He's eternally within my heart, never mind in the church on Sunday or in the temple on Friday. No, or in the mosque on Friday or the temple on Sunday. No, He's in my heart everywhere at all times, night and day. And He knows everything that's going on. So with this understanding, so the understanding of how things actually work are within the books of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada spent gallons of blood to write his books. His main activity was translating. He would pick the middle of the night. He would give up sleep so he could translate and not be disturbed by the management arrangement that his disciples would create during the day. So he would spend quality time to give us this knowledge. Why? Because this knowledge was coming from Paramatma. Who do you think gave him the strength to be able to write his purpose? Paramatma. So this is Krishna himself is explaining to us through the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada how we can practice very simply in this Kali Yuga, in this materialistic society, how we can simply practice bhakti yoga or devotional service so that we become attached to God. and not attached to our material situation. So my prayer is, don't turn Prabhupada's mission into a mundane church. That would be a disaster. Prabhupada has given us these books, and the way to make progress is to read them and understand them, and then our life will become perfect. Okay, we have one more question from Ana Maria Monchada. Prabhu, could you please elaborate more on these two statements? 1, the cosmic manifestation has no power to act unless it is moved by the superior energy, the living entity. 2, the forgetfulness is due to the influence of matter upon the living entities. Thanks. First of all, there is no example in the material world where matter works on its own. We may create the most incredible machine, create a big jet plane, but unless the pilot gets on, that plane will stay on the tarmac forever. Even computers, they may create artificial intelligence, but at the beginning of the creation, to set it in motion, to make it work, requires spirit. Matter will not work without spirit. And the forgetfulness of our spiritual is not due to matter. It is due to our reluctance to serve Krishna. It is due to our imitation of Krishna's independence. Krishna is supremely independent, and we are also independent. Krishna doesn't interfere with this independence that we have. It may be minute independence, but this independence is there to allow us to love him, to allow us to make the choice to love him, rather than the choice of being separated from him. And it is not the material energy has no power to overcome the living entity, unless the living entity agrees to be overpowered. Good. Any other points? No. So we'll end it here. Thank you very much for putting up with my imperfect presentation. I never feel when I speak on Bhagavad Gita, I'm always conscious that I don't know. I don't even know the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. I know nothing. And I simply pray to Krishna, please, before I give a class, I usually go to Mediti and I say, please, Krishna, let me speak nicely tonight. So I hope to see you again next Wednesday. Thank you very much, and may Krishna bless you. Hare Krishna.